Welcome back, Mr. Cisneros here. Today we're going to make our assembly. In our past videos, we've done a couple of things. We've modeled 4 parts. We've created a project folder for those 4 parts to be located in. And then when we had all those parts modeled, we decided to go back. We made some modifications to some of the dimensions, and we also were able to add material or assign material to our parts. So that's why you can see on the list here, you can see that our parts are different colors here. Our pommel, hammerhead are both a steel material. Our handle is made out of hickory, and then our strap is nylon. All right, so the way we're going to make our assembly, we are going to make a new part. I think that this is going to be the best way to do this. So if I'm going to make a new part, I'm going to hit the plus sign here. Make the plus sign here, and I'm going to just call this Thor's, and you know what, start with our initials, and underscore Thor's hammer assembly. Okay, so I think this is going to be the best way to do this. Onshape works, I've learned, very differently than Inventor. So the way that we're going to go about making this assembly so that we can bring in these parts, Onshape may not like it, but this is kind of how we're going to go about doing it. So I'll make this new part, or this new file, and again, initials underscore Thor's hammer assembly. I'm going to go. It should open up. Just like everything else, we have this where we can start modeling, but I do not want to model anything else. We've modeled all 4 parts that we need. So down at the bottom left, you'll actually see that we have Part Studio 1, and then to the right of it, we have Assembly 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap where it says Part Studio 1, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to say Confirm Delete, and all that I'm left with is a tab that's called Assembly 1. This will be our assembly file, and this is where we're going to be able to bring in our different parts that we've modeled. We have 4 different parts, 4 different files. We can bring them all in one at a time. So the way that we're going to do this, we're going to use the Insert tool at the top left. You can see that there's a cube with a black arrow pointing down. I'm going to tap that. And now it says no parts found. Now if we had that Part Studio tab and we had something in there, that part would probably show up here. But we don't have that because we just deleted it. So we do have to look into our other documents. Other documents tab is right here. When we do that, we can go to My Onshape. We can find our Thor's Hammer project folder, and we'll be able to see that we have all 4 of our parts here. The one that we want to bring in first is always going to be the one that we want to kind of attach things to. It'll be our starter block. So the one that we want to start with is probably going to be the pommel. So I'm going to tap on the pommel. And now we can see that it shows up as main and start. So main is our main workspace where if we opened up our pommel, we would be able to work on it. Start is kind of just the start date of when I first made this. I did this a few times over and ended up just starting from scratch. So you can see my date is just recently, but that's okay. In order to create an assembly here, we can't tap on start. There's no parts there. We can't tap on main, it just won't let us. What Onshape wants us to do is create a version of our part. And that version, at this point, will be the most up-to-date version of that pommel. So the most latest things that we've done, we've changed the sizing, we've added material, we've changed the appearance. All those things, if we create a version, will be attached, will be updated to that part. So this version that we bring in, it will be made out of steel. It will have all those modified dimensions. Everything will be good. So the way that I create that version, it kind of says it right there. It's laid out for us. Create a version in JDC pommel. So in our part that's in our Thor's Hammer project folder, we're going to be able to create a version in that part. So that's what I'm going to tap here on this blue square. I'm going to tap there. And let's do V1 pommel. just so we know that that is version 1 of our pommel. And I'm going to save version. Once I do that, we should be able to see our part studio, and in that part studio of that part is our pommel. I'm going to tap where it says pommel. And now that should bring it in. I'm going to hit the check mark up at the top where it says insert, the blue check mark. And here, the first thing that I'm going to do now that this is inserted is I'm going to fix this or ground it. And the way we do this is by tapping on the 3 dots here next to pommel. And I'm going to tap on fix. Now what this does is it takes away the ability for this part to move around. And you can see that we've placed it here on the origin of the assembly. We don't want it to move from there. Our other parts won't be fixed necessarily, because we're going to want to be able to mate them to this pommel. So the next part that we're going to bring in is the handle. We'll have to do a mate so that those are put together. Then after that, we'll do the hammerhead, and then after that, we'll do the strap. So here we're going to go back to the insert button, tap on insert. I need to go to other documents, go to my Onshape, go to Thor's hammer, and then go to handle. Now again, same thing, we're going to have to create a version of this, and this again will have the most up-to-date modifications and changes that we've done to this part so far. So I'm going to tap on this blue block. It's going to want us to give it a name. We can leave it as V1 and then just add handle to it. Because if we just leave everybody the V1, then it'll just be a little confusing with the naming. So make sure you add handle. I'm going to tap save version. And then here again, we'll see that our Part Studio 1 has our handle in there. I'm going to tap on that, and it should bring it in. Now, it kind of looks like it's assembled already. It's really not. It's just kind of where it's placing everything. It placed this on the same origin point that the pommel was. If we try to move this, we'll see that it still is able to move. So it's not fully assembled yet. Now, if I want to bring in some other parts, we can. But to make things a little less confusing, how about we just hit the check mark here up at the top, and we assemble these two together. So the way that we're going to do this, I'm going to tap on the cylinder, on the handle, so that it's selected like this, and then I'm going to tap and hold and move, and you can see that it can move all around. Okay, so let's do that just to get it out of that hole for a second. And then to deselect that, I'm just going to double tap on the white space to deselect, and then I can start orbiting. And I know that what I want to do is I want to assemble this so that this handle goes inside that pommel. So this surface here is going to have to be mated to this surface here. So the way that I do that is I'm going to go to my mate tool at the top left. That's right next to insert. I'm going to tap on that, and you can see all these different types of mates are showing up. The one that is going to be the easiest is probably going to be fastened mate. I've kind of played around with this a few times, and fastened mate seems to work the best. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to tap on fastened mate, and when I do tap on that, it says mate connectors, no entity selected. What we're going to have to create or tap on or select are what are called mate connectors, and those mate connectors allow for us to almost connect them, almost like Legos. So the way that we get those mate connectors to show up and become selected is kind of tricky, and I'm still not sure if I 100% understand how it works, but here we go. I'm going to tap on, say, the cylinder, so this surface of the handle. I'm going to tap on it once. When I do tap on it once, we can see that there's a circle with an X on it. White circle with an X. If I tap that again, right on that circle with the X, this little symbol shows up. That is good. That means that a mate connector has been selected. And you can see down in the menu, it says mate connectors, one entity selected. That's perfect. So now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to select the other mate connector. Now, here's the tricky part. If I try to orbit to go inside of my pommel, you'll see that I can't move, and you won't be able to move either. On the top right, you can see that there's a lock, a yellow circle with a lock on it. For whatever reason, Onshape locks this whenever you click on a connector. So all you have to do is tap on that yellow circle, and then it unlocks it and allows you to orbit around. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to tap on the inside of this pommel. Again, that white circle shows up with an X on it. You're going to tap on that once, and it will snap it over. Now remember, the pommel is fixed, so that won't move. What moved was actually the handle, which is perfect. Okay, so now that once that has moved, it's kind of connected, it's mated on there, we can hit the check mark down at the bottom where it says fastened 1, check mark, and we have those two fastened together. We have them assembled, mated together, which is good. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do that with the hammerhead now. So I'm going to go into my insert tool. Remember, it's that cube with the black arrow pointing down. I'm going to go to my other documents. I'm going to go to my Onshape, Thor's Hammer project folder, and then I'm going to go to hammerhead. I'm going to tap on that. Remember, we have to create a version of it. So I'm going to tap on that blue box. I'm going to go to V1, and I'm going to go to type in hammerhead. Okay, we don't want all of them to be called V1 and then we don't know which one is which. So that's good. Save version. And once we do, Part Studio 1 will open up and hammerhead will be right there. We tap on where it says hammerhead. That brings it in. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use our mate, our fastened mate one more time. So before we do that, we do have to hit the check mark up at the top here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use fasten mate one more time. You can see it's actually showing up right there to the right of my mate tool. So I can tap that again, or I can just go back in here, tap fasten mate. Okay, fasten mate. I'm going to show you that one more time just in case you don't see it. Fasten mate's right there. And again, we have to pick those connectors. So I'm going to start with my cylinder here. And I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to tap it once. We get that white circle with the X on it. I'm going to tap that circle once in the middle, the one in the middle. When I do, I get that button, right? A connector, a mate connector has been selected. It locks my screen for whatever reason. Now here, I might be lucky. I might be in luck. I might not need to unlock this because I can actually see the whole of the hammerhead from here. So if you are in the same situation, you don't have to unlock. I can kind of just tap on this, but just in case, I'm going to unlock this. I'm going to kind of pan over. I'm going to zoom in over here. Now this one's a little tricky because there isn't really a surface. There's more of an edge on this hole, right? So I'm going to tap on the edge of the hole, and now the circle with an X on it shows up in the middle. That's where I'm going to tap a second time, and it should bring it right over, right? And that should have worked perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark here. And if I zoom out, you can see that that looks like it works. But let's take a look. The hole doesn't seem to be the right size. I think that either the handle, no, it looks like it's the hole in our hammerhead is not the right size. So what I would have to do is I would actually have to delete this hammerhead. We'll work our way back to this in a second. This video will be a little bit longer now. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go into my hammerhead. I'm going to figure out exactly why my hole is way too big. My hole should be located in Sketch 2. If I edit this, now you might not have to do this. Yeah, it looks like I forgot to dimension this the second time I went and modeled this all out. That's kind of an easy fix. You guys probably won't have to do this, but I will. So I'm going to go to dimension. I'm going to tap on this circle. Yeah, that should be 2, not 2.5259. That's my mistake. I'm going to type in 2, check mark, check mark. So now my part's been updated. I can go back to my assembly. Now here's the thing. I just made a change, right? I just made a change to my hammerhead. So what will I have to do? I'll have to make a new version in order for that to be updated. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go to Insert, Other Documents, My Onshape, Thor's Hammer. Then I go to my hammerhead. Version 1 is not going to be any good for me, right? I can see version 1, hammerhead is right there. If I select that, the hole again is going to be off. So what I'm going to have to do, because I made an update to my dimension, I'm going to have to make a new version. So I'm going to tap on this blue box one more time, and now V2, I'm going to type in V2 hammerhead save version. And now that's the one that I'm going to insert. I'm going to go to hammerhead, tap it, it'll bring it in, and I just do that one more time. So actually that kind of was helpful because now it gives us a better understanding of how versions work. I'm going to hit the check mark here so I can start assembling this. This is going to be a little bit faster. So I'm going to go to my mate tool. I'm going to go to fastened mate. I'm going to zoom into my cylinder, tap it once to get that white circle. I'm going to tap on that white circle, get a connector mate or a mate connector. I'm going to unlock because I want to move around and see the hammerhead. So unlock the yellow circle at the top right. I'm going to be able to pan over, and I need to make my second selection. I'm going to tap on the edge of this hole. I get the white circle in the middle. I'm going to tap on that. It'll bring it in, snap it over. Remember, our pommel's fixed, so the hammerhead is going to be the one that moves, which is perfect. I'm going to check where it says fastened to. And now we can see that that actually fits way better. Okay, that's a perfect fit. Very nice. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in our strap. Now our strap is going to be a bit different because we don't really have a good way to mate this onto the rest of these parts. So we don't have a good way to do like a fasten mate the way we did the last two parts. We're really just going to insert it, place it in the kind of a position that we like, and then just fix the strap. It's really the best we can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert it. I'm going to go to the little box with the black arrow pointing down on the top left. Tap on that. I'm going to go to my other documents. I'm going to go to my Onshape, Thor's Hammer project folder, and then I'm going to tap on strap. I did try this just previously, so that's why I already have a version created. If you don't have a version created, just tap on the blue box that you see and then name it V1 strap. I already have mine, so I'm going to tap on my V1 strap and I'm going to tap on my part. It brings it in. I'm going to hit the check mark up at the top. And now what I want to do is I kind of just want to orient this a little bit differently. I want to flip this 180 degrees on one of my axis lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go to my back view. So I'm going to tap on the cube here. I'm going to tap on back, and this shows up. Now what I want to do is, again, I just want to flip this 180 degrees. I want to turn it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on this. When I do tap on this, you can see that the arc with the circle is up above my part. That's what I want to tap and drag. When I tap and drag, it's going to be able to orbit this 180 degrees. So like right there is good. And then I'm going to double tap the white space to deselect, and then I'm going to orbit this. Now that looks really good. It's almost perfect. So now the last thing I want to do is I want to go on a different orientation. I'm going to, instead of the back, I'm going to go to the right side. Yeah, the right side. So I'm going to go to I'm going to tap my 3D cube. I'm going to go to my right. And now I just want to orient this just at an angle. I want to angle it a little bit. So I'm going to tap on this again. Now that for some reason the shapes don't show up sometimes. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to tap once more. There we go. Now the shapes show up, so we can kind of change the orientation a little bit, angle this. So the arc with the circle on the right side, I'm going to tap and drag that. And it's going to orbit it a little bit, probably around right there is what I want. And you can play around with this all you want. I'm going to tap away. I'm going to tap the white space to deselect. And then I'm going to tap and drag this so I can move it around. And I think about right there. Looks good to me. You can kind of zoom in and kind of place it yourself too. I think right there, just so it's inside of my pommel, it kind of looks like it's inserted in there, even though it's not. I think it's just going to look good that way. So now what we can do is we can deselect this, and And then over on the left-hand side, now, for whatever reason, we forgot to name or I forgot to name my part here. So it just reads as part 1 and not strap. If you really wanted to fix that really quick, I'm going to go back. I can go into my strap part. And down at the bottom left, where we assigned material, where we assigned appearance, we can hit the 3 dots here. We can go to rename, and we can just call this strap. So that's why it's not showing up as strap in our assembly. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to my assembly. And you can see it should update. Oh, probably won't because it's a different version now. Maybe. That's okay. All right, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create our STL file. And that's actually really simple to do from the assembly tab. So in our assembly tab, where we see assembly 1, we can tap on that. And you know what, we can just for organization's sake, we can rename this really quick. We can call it Thor's Hammer Assembly. And go there. So now we've named that. I'm going to tap on that. I'm going to go to export. And then I'm going to, again, call this Thor's Hammer Assembly. And then here under File Format, it's going to say Parasolid. We're actually going to want, instead, I'm going to tap on where it says Parasolid. And I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom where it says STL. That's the file type that I want. I'm going to tap on STL. Everything else should be able to be left on its own. And right here, I'm going to tap on export. Actually, I just saw one thing. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to do that one more time. Export. And where it says export parts as individual files, we actually want it all to be put together in one file. So I'm going to uncheck that. Because if we leave that checked, then it's going to make our STL files independent part files. So it'll make, I don't know if it'll make 4 different STLs, but it will make STLs so that each part that we have in here will be individual. We don't want that. We want it to be all put together. We put it together for a reason. So I'm going to have that box unchecked, and then I'm going to go to export. And then here, this is where you're going to be able to put it into your Google Drive. Once you put it into your Google Drive, you'll be able to share it with me. And then once it's shared with me, I'll be able to take your STL and I'll be able to 3D print it. So for now, just save it to your Google Drive. Make sure Google Drive is selected. Save. And your STL should be created. You should be able to find it in your Google Drive. All right. So that is it. We'll talk about how you can share that with me later. That is it. We'll see you in the next one.